Well, guys, I couldn't help myself. I was at Tony's yesterday buying another ceanothus for my hedge, and they had some really nice green Cordylines. Usually, you only ever see green Cordylines, when they're sold as a spike, just at the grocery store, big box, that sort of thing, and they're small. A few dollars each. Well, actually, they've gone up this year in price. I've noticed they're about $4 or $5 for a small one. And at Tony's, they had some leftovers from last year that were about half this size. They had this size. They had a size even bigger than this, and then they had some trunking ones, and then they had some jumbo ones. And it's just not something that you see around here. You usually only ever see them as little tiny things. So I couldn't help myself. If I started with a small one, like those little tiny ones that are meant for hanging or sold for hanging baskets or I can't think of the planters, pardon me. To get it from that size to about this size, that would be at least 2 years, possibly 3. So I just went ahead and kind of skipped the line and went to a larger one. It's about 3 feet overall height, which is pretty nice. Some of them had a little bit of trunk. This one's getting real close where there is just a tiny bit of trunk showing. But I tell you, the price was right. $13. Can you believe that? $13. So I can buy just a little one that has a few blades for $4 or $5, or I could get one of these. So not a bad deal. And you can see there is a little bit of a trunk. Some of them did have a trunk, but they're kind of crooked. And this one was nice and green, very little spotting. So, Cordyline australis, a lot of people think this is a palm tree, but it's not. It's called the New Zealand, I think sometimes they call it the New Zealand cabbage palm, but cabbage tree I think is more the correct term. So these things do get quite big, like 30, 40 feet over time. But I think most of the ones I've seen from memory are about 20, 25, and changes a lot in appearance as it gets older. It gets a thick, corky trunk. It will start pushing out like multiple growing points, so they can be pretty funky looking, really nice. Zone 9A long term. I'm in 8B. These do survive. They'll never die here, but what can happen is about every 10 years or so we might get a real bad cold snap, and as these start to grow and they get up to 8 or 10 feet tall, the growing point, they're kind of like a palm where they have a growing point right in the center where all the new growth comes from. And if we get a real bad winter, it can freeze part of the trunk and they can die back, and then they'll send out shoots out the side, or if it's really bad, it'll kill it to the ground. But they're root hardy in zone 8. So I thought it was a really good price, and you just don't really ever see them this size. The bigger ones were I think 30, 40, and 80, but I felt like this was the real sweet spot for what you got versus the price. So I am undecided where I'm going to put this. I'm redoing my front yard, so I might find a spot. I'm going to try and put it a little bit out of the wind, although these do fine in wind. They do grow in coastal areas, at least in North America. I think in New Zealand they grow everywhere. I spent months there, and I'll be honest with you, I don't ever remember seeing one of these, but I wasn't really into plants then. So there you go. Cordyline australis, just the regular green form.